Begin today the Gemara on Daf Yud Ches Amud Aleph, 5 lines down from the top of the Yomud where it says Gufa. Gufa Amar Rava, the Gemara brings back the statement that was mentioned before by Rava. Gufa Amar Rava, so Rava said, Zor Sho'achal, any yid that goes and eats mina oila, from a carbon oila that's supposed to be completely burnt on the Mizbeach, and he ate from it lifnei zrika, before the blood was sprayed on the Mizbeach. And where did he eat this? Chutz l'chayma, outside the walls of Yerushalayim. So Rab Shimon, according to Rab Shimon, and this is Rab Shimon that the Gemara discussed before, Barichis and Daf Zayin, that brings a pasuk of Leisucha lechol b'sharecha, Ma'aseh deganchas eroshcha v'yitzarecha, and there he darshans that whole pasuk when it says b'chayreis, b'karcha, tzeincha, nederecha. So he darshans that pasuk to be a source of different isurim. So according to this Rab Shimon, like a chamish, you get malchus 5 times. What are the 5 isurim here? One is the fact that he's eating a carbon that's supposed to be completely burnt, no matter who it is, whether he would be even a kayin. You're not eating a carbon oil that has to be completely burnt. And then it's the fact that he's eating it as a zar. He's not a kayin. And then the location where he's eating it. He's eating it outside of the azara of the Beis HaMikdash. That's where kotche kotchim are eaten. Oil is a kotche kotchim. And he's eating it not only outside the Azara of the Beis HaMikdash, but he's also eating it outside of Yerushalayim. That's an additional list, so that's already 4. And then he's eating it before the Zrika, before the spraying of the blood on the Mizbeach. That's 5. And now the lashon of the Gemara over here is that he gets malchus 5 times. But Rashi already before clarified, there's a big arichas here in Taisus, but according to Rashi's pshat, it doesn't really mean malchus 5 times, because when Rab Shimon darshan this, it was based on a kal v'chaimer. And we have a rule that you never can give a warning for malchus based on a kal v'chaimer. It has to be a clear pasuk or a clear limud. So therefore, according to Rashi, when it says Yaloike Chamish, it means that there's 5 isurim. Okay, now the Gemara is going to ask that in this case, seemingly there's other psukim where there should be additional malchusim. Frag the Gemara, Velulki Nami Mishum, why wouldn't he get malchus for being over on the lava of this pasuk here where it says V'zar la yochal ki koydeshem, that the Zar should not eat from this because it's Kaidesh. So it seems that from this pasuk, this is a pasuk that says by the Shivas Yimei Miluim. And over there, because it says Ki Kaideshem, what it seems to be saying is that from Kotche Kotchim, a Zar is not allowed to eat. So here, a Zar that eats from an Oila, any Oila which is Kotche Kotchim, you should get Malchus for this Zar La Yechal Ki Kaideshem. And says the Gemara, that law would not apply here. Because Hani Mili, when does that pasuk apply? Heiche de Lakayanim Chazi. Like it says there in the beginning of the pasuk, it speaks about the kainim that are eating from those karbanis. So Rashi brings the beginning of the pasuk. It says that Gemara is going to quote, the kainim eat from it, and then it says Azar may not eat. So there it's talking about karbanis which the kainim are able to eat, and then there's the lav Azar la yechal. Hacha the lekainim nami lechazi. We're speaking here about a zar that eats from an oila that you're not allowed to eat from it at all. Even a kain is also not allowed to eat. So therefore, this malchus, this pasuk is not applicable. B'chlal. Another question the Gemara asks: V'lilki nami, why wouldn't there be malchus in this case? Mishum, the pasuk where it says ubasar basada treifa loisechelu, that the meat of an animal that's treifa, don't eat from it. Now, the simple pshat of this pasuk is speaking about an animal that's a treifa. An animal that's treifa means that it was attacked by another animal or by a wild beast, and therefore it has it's treifa that it can't live for 12 months, and that this is treifa. But Rashi says the Gemara darshans from this pasuk other things, because the word basada is extra. It could have said the basa treifa loisechelu. Why does it say basada? Basada means that it's something which was taken outside of the place where it's supposed to be, in a field outside. What is the outside? It refers to the kotche kotchim that are supposed to be eaten inside the curtains or inside the walls of the azara, and it was taken outside of the walls of the azara. That's basada. So this is basada that you're not allowed to eat. A similar thing, not I don't know if it's mamish similar, but another thing that's learned out from basada is also benegate to when you shecht an animal. If you shecht an animal and there was a fetus inside the animal during the shechita, then the fetus inside, even if it's a whole live animal that's born, that comes out, or it's an animal that was inside the mother's womb by the shechita, it's the shechita is matter to eat the fetus inside.
From basada?
Huh?
From basada?
Yeah, we learned it out from basada. But this ubar that sticks out the hand at the time of the shechita of the mother, so then it's because it went out of the place where it is inside the mother, It's outside, basada, outside. So therefore, it's it doesn't become mutter with that shchita. It's another thing you learn from this pasuk. Okay, but now what the Gemara is asking is that from here we learn out that kivin sheyatza basa chutz lemechitzasai, when the basar of the carbon goes out of its mechitza, which is the walls of the azara, nasar. There's a isser and it's a lav. It says basa basada treifa loisechelu. Okay, now according to some Rishonim, Taisus brings this up here also. The Gemara is not asking that it should be malchus, because this kind of pasuk is what's called a lav shebachlalis. Since you learn out from basada two different things, as mentioned, so it's not one particular lav, it's a general lashon of the pasuk that refers to a few things, therefore there is no malchus. But Taisus actually says that the Gemara is asking that there would be malchus in this case. And the Gemara answers here as well, it doesn't apply to what we're talking about, a zar that ate from a carbon oila, because hanamili heichid bifnim chazi. What this pasuk is talking about is something that on the inside it's fit for eating. And then it says that if it went out, basada, it becomes aser. But hacha, here, what are we talking about? The azar that ate from a oila, the bifnim nami lechazi. This is supposed to be completely burnt. On the inside, you also can't eat from this. So therefore, over here, it's not the isser of basada. You can't say that this is an isser that when you took it out, you can't eat from it at all. Another question the Gemara asks, V'lilki nami, why wouldn't you get malchus? K'der Rabbi Eliezer. Like Rabbi Eliezer said, Rabbi Eliezer says, when it says in the pasuk, ki kaideshu, that you shouldn't eat from this because it's kaidesh. This is a pasuk that actually says by noisar. But the noisar, the leftovers of a carbon after the time that you're allowed to eat it, so you don't eat from it because it's kaidesh. Now, the pasuk here is actually coming to say that you shouldn't eat from it because it's noisar, because it became pasul and it's noisar. So then why does the pasuk use the term ki kaideshu if the point is that it's noisar? So the answer is from here, Rabbi Eliezer said, you learn out kol shebekaidish pasul, anything, not only nicer, any kind of carbon of kaidish that became pasul, ba kastav litin loisas ala chilosek. Here is the pasuk where it says a loisas, a lav, that you're not allowed to eat it. That's the reason the pasuk uses this expression. So again, Taisus here points out that this is also a lav shebachlolis. It's a lav that includes any kind of kaidish that's pasul, and therefore, l'chayra, there shouldn't be malchus for such a kind of thing, as the rule is by a lav shebachlolis. Okay, but the Gemara answers, this pasuk is...
Shouldn't be a lav, should be malchus, or shouldn't be a lav?
Shouldn't be malchus. Lav shebachlolis is a lav, but there's no malchus for a lav shebachlolis. So it would be a isser lav, but without malchus.
But as you said at the beginning,
yeah,
there could be many, you're only getting still malchus once.
Yeah. And a chanami, true. Going back to what I said in the beginning, Rashi says that over here, when Rava said you get 5 times malchus, he didn't even mean 5 times malchus. It means 5 yisurim. Yeah, so and a chanami. So here the Gemara is asking that there should be another iser. So the Gemara answers regarding this pasuk, also similar to what it said before. Hanamili, this pasuk, when it says that anything in Kaidish is pasul, that it's a lav. It's talking about such things in karbanis that before the psul, it was fit for eating. Why? Because that's the context of the pasuk. It's talking about noisar. Noisar originally you were allowed to eat, and then later it became pasul after the time. But hacha over here, we're talking about a zar that ate from a oila, the kind of psul enamilechas. Before the psul, it's not fit for eating at all. It has to be burnt in the mizbeach. So this lav doesn't apply. I'm going to ask one more question. Vililki nami ki iduch de Rabbi Eliezer. There should be malchus based on something else Rabbi Eliezer learned out. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer says, Kolshu bekolil tia. When it says in the pasuk that it has to be kolil tia, has to be completely burnt. So that pasuk, it says there in the pasuk, in the Bach here adds, it says in the pasuk, kolil tia loy seyachal. That by the ayla has to be completely burnt, loy seyachal. You're not allowed to eat this. Litin loy seyachal. The pasuk there is clearly giving a lav for one that eats from a carbon ayla. So this is in addition to Rava was saying, based on what Rab Shimon said, Leisucha lechel b'sharecha, and he learned out that nidorecha goes in a oila, and that's a lav, and that pasuk that Rab Shimon darshan. But here he's asking, Rabbi Eliezer says that by the oila itself, it says kolatia loisayachol. There's another lav here on eating this. And says the Gemara, enachanami. This is taka true. There's another lav here. There's a sixth iser or even a malchus that you have it clearly in this lav. When Rava said that there's 5 yisurim, he was saying Rab Shimon. He was giving an example that based on what Rab Shimon learned out from that pasuk of Leisucha lechel b'sharecha, it'll come out a case where one could do, a Zar can eat, it can do one action, and it could be over 5 Yisurim based on that pasuk. But there is taka a 6th Isser, or even a Malkus, that you learn from this pasuk here. Amar Rav Gidl, Amar Rav, and the Gemara brings a simon over here for the 3 things that it's going to say. Kuza, Chav Zayin Aleph, Kayin Zar, and we'll see. So first, the way the Gemara brings the statement that was said in the name of Rav is that Kayin she'achal michatas va'asham, a Kayin that eats from the chatas and asham. Now, the Kayinim eat from a portion of the chatas and the asham, but this Kayin ate lifnei zrike, before the spraying of the blood on the mizbeach. Loike, you get malchus for this. My time, but what's the source of the malchus? The Amakra, the pasuk says, "Va'achlu isa masher kupar behem." They eat from this. This is the pasuk that was quoted before, beneged to the Shivas Yimen Milon. So when do they eat from this? After kupar behem, which means la'acha kapara. After the atonement, which is the spraying the blood on the mizbech, which is the kapara. Then they can eat. Lifnei kapara, but from the pasuk you understand. But if they eat from this before spraying the blood on the mizbech, loy, you can't eat from this. Now, so the chiddush here is that from here we learn out that lav haba miklal ese lavhu, a lav that doesn't say explicitly in the Torah as a lav that you shall not do this. It says in the Torah a condition of how and when what you should do, and from that you understand that it's telling you what you should not do. So it's a lav that's learned from the ese that has a halacha of a lav that you get malchus for this. That's the chiddush here in this rule that the Gemara is saying now. On this the Gemara asks, if this rule is true, that anytime the Torah writes a esse, and there's something you learn from the esse of what you cannot do, and that's a lav, you get malchus. So the Gemara asks from another case. Masav Rave says in the pasuk, "V'chol be'emim afreses parse v'shesas shtei process milas geire ba'behema oisa techelo." That the behema that has the 2 simonim of kashrus being mafres parse and malageire. This is actually a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, but it's also in this week's parsha, this inyan. Oisa techelu, that's what you should eat. So it says oisa techelu. What does that mean? Oisa techelu ve'ein behema acheres techelu. This is what you're allowed to eat, but another behema you're not allowed to eat. So that's the Torah is saying a mitzvah saseh, but you could learn from it a lav, what you're not allowed to eat. So right here you should have a lav that you should get malchus for this. But if, like you said, it's true that you have the esse, from the esse you learn out the lav. And then when the pasuk goes on to say, "Ezeh loy toichlu," and this is what you should not eat, why does the Torah have to spell out the lav that this is what you should not eat? The esse itself includes the lav already that you deduce from the esse. So therefore the Gemara says the way it was quoted in the name of Rav is not true. Ela I itmer, hachi itmer. What was learned in the name of Rav was different. Amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav. Rav Gidl said in the name of Rav. Zar, not a kain. A zar she'achal mechatas va'asham lefnei zrike. Any yid that goes and eats from the chatas and asham, a yid that eats, he doesn't have a portion to eat b'chlal from the chatas and asham. But he ate from the chatas and the asham not after the zrike, lefnei zrike, before the zrike of the blood on the mizbech potter. It's going to be potter from malchus. If he eats after the zrike from the chatas and the asham and he's not supposed to eat, then he would get malchus. But if he eats before the zrike, then it's potter. My timer, what's the reason for this? That they, the Kohanim, eat from this carbon when they already did the atonement, which is the spraying the blood of the Mizbeach. And then the end of that pasuk, it says, "V'zar la yechal k'kodesh." A zar should not eat. So from this we learn out, when the first part of the pasuk was already fulfilled and already applies that the Kohanim eat because they already did the kapara, they sprayed the blood. So then you apply what it says in the second part of the pasuk that the zar may not eat and he gets malchus. But if you cannot apply the first half of the pasuk that the Kohen eats because he already did the kapara, he didn't spray the blood yet. So the second half of the pasuk does not apply either. That's the statement that Rav Gidl said in the name of Rav.
So the Kohen will be for the Kohen it will be also to eat before.
Yeah, but not malchus though. It will be also, but not malchus.
Yeah, but not for the zar.
Yeah, correct. By the zar, he won't get malchus for this. The lav of a zar la yechal only applies when the first half of the pasuk is also fulfilled. Okay, this was all a side point that Gemara got involved in from Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, but it all began really with a discussion where the Gemara was discussing what it said in the Mishnah regarding Bikurim. So the Gemara comes now back to the mitzvah of Bikurim. Amar Abba Lazar, Amar Abba Ishia. Bikurim. By the mitzvah of Bikurim, you bring the fruits, the Shiva Saminim that you caught, and you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. So what do you have to do with the Bikurim? It has to be placed down in front of the Mizbeach, and then you have to read the Psukim, and after that the Kohanim can eat from it. So Rabbi Elazar says in the name of Rav Aishia that by the Bikurim, Hanoche Ma'akev ben. Putting it down there in front of the Mizbeach, that's Ma'akev. That holds back that until you do that, you can't eat. But Kriya ei Ma'akev behen. But the reading of the Psukim, that's not Ma'akev. Even without reading of the Psukim, the basic mitzvah of putting it down is fulfilled, and then you could eat from it. Could it be that Rabbi Elazar said this? But if one separates the bikurim before Sukkos, and then he still has the bikurim, he didn't bring it yet, and it's now after Sukkos, so he can't bring it anymore as bikurim in the Beis HaMikdash. He has to leave it to rat. What's the reason for this? My love, don't you think the reason is because after Sukkos you can't read the Psukim anymore? Why not? So Rashi explains that by the Psukim of the Bikurim it says v'samachta b'chol ha'tov, v'samachta b'chol ha'tov. You're thanking the Eibishter for the joy with all the goodness that He gave you with these peiros. When is that time when a Yid has that period of the year where there's the simcha of the peiros that Hashem gave him between Shavuos and Sukkos? Which is a time when the harvest and then this is mana kotzer, mana asifa, until Sukkot when a person gathers in from the field. That's when you could say the psukim and conclude with v'samachta b'chol ha'tov. After Sukkot, it's too late. Then you can't say these psukim anymore. It's not that time period anymore. So now here's the thing: if someone cut the bikurim and has the bikurim only after Sukkot, so then it was lachatchila not roy to be used, to be brought to fulfill the full mitzvah with the kriya. So then you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash without reading the psukim. That's actually from Sukkot until Chanukah time. But it's not really the Iker mitzvah of Bikurim, like when you're supposed to read the psukim. But if you have the Bikurim, that was already, you had it already from before, he already prepared it, he has it from before Sukkot. And now he's supposed to fulfill the mitzvah with this, to come and read the psukim. And he left it. He didn't do it. He kept it until after Sukkot. So now he can't fulfill the mitzvah anymore because he's supposed to do the mitzvah with this, to read the psukim, and he's not able anymore. So therefore, it has to be left to rat.
But he's bringing them without saying the
That's only if only for the bikurim from after Sukkot you could bring from Sukkot to Chanukah without reading the psukim. But the bikurim that one had already from before, in the time of Simcha, in the time when he gathered it from his field, and he left it, and he didn't bring it, he delayed it until after, then he can't bring it. Now, but if Rabbi Elazar said before that the whole kriya is b'chlal not ma'akiv, so why does it have to be left to rat? He should bring it afterwards, and you can't read the psukim, but it's even when the time when you could read the psukim, it's not ma'akiv anyways. And says the Gemara, no, it depends. K'der Rab Zera, we apply over here a rule that Rab Zera says. What does Rab Zera say? No, but Rab Zera says regarding the carbon mincha, that when you bring the flour and the oil for the carbon mincha in a bowl, so in the pasuk it says that it has to be mixed together. What Rab Zera says about this, that does it always have to be mixed? It depends. If it's in a bowl that's large enough that it's able to be mixed, it actually doesn't have to be mixed. But if it's in a bowl where it's impossible for it to be mixed, then then the mixing is something which is necessary, and then it won't be a good mincha. Right? So the shear for this, as Rashi brings from the Gemara Menachos, is when a person is bringing a mincha that's 60 isarin. If it's 60 isarin, that fits into the bowl in the Beis HaMikdash, then it's able to be mixed. Then it's not necessary to mix it. But if you bring on a dava of a mincha that's 61 isarin, so that's too much to be able to mix in the bowl, then it's not going to be possible without mixing it, because it has to at least be roy to be mixed. The basis of this inyan is, there's a unique concept that you find by Kachim, that anything it says by Karbonis, by Kachim in the Torah, only once, it's a mitzvah to do it, but it's not ma'akiv. By Kachim, the rule is, in order for something to be ma'akiv, that it should hold up, that it must be done, it has to be shana olav akasav la'akiv, that the Torah writes it twice. So this is one example of it regarding the mixing of the carbon mincha, because it says in the Torah only one lashon of mixing. So therefore, in a case where it could be mixed, there's a mitzvah to mix it, but even if you don't, it's not ma'akiv. But if it's a case where it's impossible to be mixed, and the Torah does write at least once the union of mixing, therefore over there it's going to be possible. So similar, we're applying over here as well regarding the bikurim. If you bring it in a time period where you could read the psukim, so then even if you don't read the pasuk, it's not going to be ma'akev. But if you're bringing it, if you left it until after sukkahs where you can't read the psukim, then it's a problem. Then it's going to be ma'akev. So this is also based on, as the Gemara will see here in the Gemara, b'nigeya to the kriya. Is there a double lashon in the pasuk for the kriya of the psukim by the bikurim or not? Okay, let's see the continuation. The Gemara brings from another. It was said also in the name of another Amayra. Rab Acher bar Yaakov, masni lo ked Rabasi, Omer Rab Yechanan. He brought the same statement that was brought before in the name of Rabbi Lazar, said it in the name of Rabbi Shia, that by the bikurim, the hanoche, putting it down is ma'akiv, and the kriya, the saying the psukim is not ma'akiv. So Rabasi said the name of Rabbi Yechanan the same halacha. Kashilei, and then therefore based on this, he had a question, the Rabbi Yechanan, he has the contradiction in Rabbi Yechanan's opinion. What's the contradiction? Is it true that Rabbi Yechanan said, Bikurim, hanocha ma'akev ben, that by the Bikurim, the placing it down, that is necessary, and kriya, ein ma'akev ben, and the kriya is not going to be ma'akev. But Rabasi asked the following Ibaya from Rabbi Yechanan. Bikurim me'emasai mutarim lekainim. At what point is the bikurim allowed for the kainim to eat? V'amalei, and he answered him, Haru'uyin lekriya. Those bikurim that are brought before sukkahs, and you could read the psukim. So when are the kainim allowed to eat? Only mishakar alei. Only once you say the psukim. And those bikurim that are brought in the time when you can't read the psukim anymore, which is after sukkahs. So then, Mishiro Pnei Habayis, as long as you bring it into the Azara and it sees it's in front of the Beis HaMikdash, which means even before you place it down, the Hanocha, it doesn't have to, even if it was not placed down, the Kainim can eat from it. So if so says the Gemara, there's actually two contradictions here in Rabbi Yechanan's opinion. Kashya, Kriya. So before, if Rabbi Yechanan said the same that Rav Lazar said in the name of Rabbi Shia before, he said you must place it down. You must, but before the first state of the Gemara is asking regarding the Kriya, regarding the reading of the Psukim. Before he said that the reading of the Psukim is not Ma'akiv. And here he says the Kriya of the Psukim is Ma'akiv in a time when you could read it. And Kashya Hanocha. And before he said that you must place it down before the Mizbeach. And now we're saying we should open a bias as soon as it comes into the Hazara and it sees the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara answers both of these questions with the same point. Rabbi Yechanan wasn't saying these two different statements of his own opinion. He said two contradictory things because he was saying different opinions of Tanoim. Kriya loy kashe. The contradiction regarding whether you have to read the psukim or not before you eat is not a contradiction. Ha Rab Shimon and Ha Rabbanan. These are the two opinions of Rab Shimon and the Rabbanan. This was brought already before on Daf Yitzayin. Rab Shimon learned out from the pasuk Lo Yisucha Lechol B'Sharecha, and when it said over there in the end of the pasuk the Bikurim, which is Trumas Yadecha, refers to Bikurim. Rab Shimon learned from there that it's allowed. You must read the psukim before you can eat from it. So that's Rab Shimon. And Ha Rabbanan, the Rabbanan disagreed to that drasha, and therefore according to the Rabbanan, the kriya is not makif. Hanocha nami lakashya, the contradiction whether you have to place it down in front of the mizbeach or not there's also no contradiction there because ha Rab Yehuda and v'ha Rabbanan. The argument is between Rab Yehuda and Rabbanan about this, and the Gemara brings the source for this. My Rab Yehuda. Where is the source for Rab Yehuda regarding this subject? The Tanya we learned in Abraisa. Rab Yehuda says v'hi nachtoi, when it says in the pasuk v'hi nachtoi, so zut nufa. It means that you should actually do tnufa, which is lifting it up and waving it to the different sides of the world. That's what vihinachtai means. Which actually means that the word vihinachtai is not read as vihinachtai, but you read the Sinakud is different. Vihinachtai is read vihinchisai. The word vihinchisai, Rashi says, it's like the lashon of the pasuk v'lei nocha alakim, when you're leading someone. So over here it means v'hinchisai, that you should sort of take the bekurim and wave it in this direction and that direction. That's what the pasuk here means. Now atayim is zutnufa. Abiyud explains, you say that this pasuk v'hinachta is to be read as v'hinchisai, and it means the tnufa, lifting it up or waving it. Maybe it means literally they have to place it down. That's the way it's supposed to. That's how the nekudas of how you read it. So Rabbi Yehuda says no kishuk ayim. There's already another pasuk where it says v'hinichai. It says v'hinichai lefnei. It says already before v'hinichai lefnei mizbach Hashem lekecha. Harei anocha ama. It already says anocha once. So Hamani Mekayim V'hinachta, when it says it a second time, Zu Tnufa, here's where the Torah is saying the mitzvah of Tnufa with the Bikurim. Okay, so what do you see here according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? That this halacha of placing it down in the mizbech, by front of the mizbech, it says only once. Because the second time when it says V'hinachta, we're darshaning it for the Tnufa. So as I mentioned before, the rule over here is by Kachim, and Bikurim is also like Kachim. That's what we see here. The Bikurim is brought into the Beis HaMikdash like Kachim, so it only says once V'hinachta or V'hinichai, and therefore it's not Ma'akif. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Uman Tana de Palagaleh de Rabbi Yehuda, which Tana disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, because he has a different source for the Tnufa by the Bikurim, so therefore according to him there are two psukim for the hanacha, for placing it down. The Tanya, it says in the Braisa, when it says in the pasuk v'lokach hakayin atena miyadecha, the kayin takes the basket of the bikurim from your hands. So from here you learn out limit ala bikurim shetu'unin tenufa. This is the pasuk. That's the source for the tenufa of the bikurim. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. This is what Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says. Now, how do you see in this pasuk that there's a tenufa here? So my time with Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's because he learns out Gzeira Shava. Asya yad mishlamim. You learn out the term, it says the kain takes it mi yodecha, and it says by shlamim also it says the term yad. So there's Gzeira Shava. Ksiv ha'chavalaka hakayin atana mi yodecha. Uksiv, and it says also, or ksiv hasam, it says there by the shlamim yadav tiviyena es ishe Hashem. Makan kayin. So we compare the two, that by both it's talking about, just like there by the shlamim it's talking about tenufa. Here as well it's the tenufa. Now what does the tenufa consist of? You learn out all the details. Ma kan kayin, just like by the shlamim, who does the tenufa? The kayin does. The kayin has to place his hands under the parts of the carbon that he lifts up. Afla halon kayin. So too by the bikurim, the kayin places his hands under the basket. Ma'ala halon bailim. And just like over there, it's done with the owner. Also has to place his hands under to lift it up. Avkan bailam. Over here as well, by the bikurim, the bailam also places his hands under. Right, and some Rishonim spell out. Some machlokes about this, but some say that the kayin puts his hands on sort of on the sides of the basket, and the bailam put it under. And they both have to actually be touching the basket itself. It shouldn't be a chatzitza. That's what some Rishonim say. Others say no, it's lavdafke. It could be with a chatzitza. Hakeitzad maniach kayin yadav tachas yidei bailam umenev. The kayin places his hands under the hands of the bailam and lifts it up. So either this means literally the bailam are the ones that are holding the basket, and the kayin can place his hands under the hands of the bailam, and then there is sort of a chatzitza, but it doesn't matter. It's this is the way it's learned out in the pasuk. Or no, the bailam put their hands under the basket, and the kayin puts his hands on the side, and they're both holding the basket itself, and that's how the tenufa is done. So the point is that according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, since this is the source of the tenufa, we have two psukim for the hanoche, the pasuk v'hinachtoy and the pasuk v'hinichoy, shana olav akasav la'akiv, and therefore that's the opinion that Rabbi Yechanan was saying, that the hanoche is ma'akiv. Similar, the Mefarshim say regarding the kriya, the discussion in the Gemara, whether saying the psukim is ma'akiv or not. In the pasuk it says the lashon v'anisa v'amarta l'fnei Hashem alekecha. So the question is, do I say that v'anisa v'amarta is considered to be a double lashon because it's two terms, or no? V'anisa v'amarta, it's not the same word repeated. It's considered to be one lashon, and therefore it's not ma'akiv.